Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tony Mo, and we are here today to ask and answer one simple question. Why am I still playing Titanfall 2? You see what I did there? Just want to give a big shout out to TB. I know right now he's going through another stage of treatments, continuing to kick cancer's arse. Want to send him my best, and I know a lot of you guys will as well. I felt this was the perfect opportunity to steal his intro and send a little bit of love his way. But that's exactly what we're going to do today. This is actually a bit of a two-part discussion. There are two topics that were kind of short, so I wanted to mash them together and just make one longer video. The first part being, why am I still playing Titanfall 2? It is a question that I want you to ask yourself as well, and I would love to hear your response down in the comment section below, because I think everyone's going to have a different personal reason for continuing to play Titanfall 2, and that may be affected or may it not be affected by their personal skill level. For me, it really continues to come down to two factors. Number one, I still really enjoy the core gameplay that Titanfall 2 has to offer. I love the atmosphere, I love the sci-fi elements, and of course, I love the freaking Titans. The second one, and this is really the big one here, the continued opportunity for personal progression. I still have room to grow. I still have room to improve. There's still lots of little bits and areas in which I can develop myself as a Titanfall 2 player. That's really the big one for me. I mean, I've walked away from other games in the past because, at least in a public play environment where I play the majority of the time, I wasn't having fun. There are plenty of games in which I maybe did too well too often, in which case the game just really wasn't any fun for me. In fact, that's kind of how I felt about Titanfall 1. I always felt like the community on Xbox when I was playing in early days, especially when I actually had a team to play with, just wasn't competitive enough for me. We had way too many just steamrolls way too often, and I didn't feel like I was being tested anymore, and since I never played at a competitive level, that was sort of where things ran out for me. So I did actually end up walking away from the game, in part because of that. It's not really the case with Titanfall 2. Even in a public environment, I'm constantly running into players who are better than I am, and I'm constantly finding myself in situations where I'm failing. Failure, of course, is a great thing, because you learn from it, you grow, and you adapt from it, and at the end of the day, hopefully, you become a better player because of it. Now, there's also a lot of diversity, a lot of variety each and every time I boot up Titanfall 2. Not only do we have a pretty wide selection of game modes, which may hurt the game in some ways, but we also have a slew of different weapons, different ways in which I can bumble into the game, different ways in which I can play from a mobility and movement perspective. There's just a lot of ways in which I can play Titanfall 2 while I'm learning how to play Titanfall 2. Maybe I want to boot it up this morning like I did and jump into a Magic Pilots versus Pilots and go full-on masochism with the Kraber. That was actually a lot of fun. Maybe I want to pick up the Hemlock for the first time in a long time and force myself to play with a weapon that's going to require me to alter my mobility and my playstyle in order to be successful. And we could say that with a whole slew of other gadgets and gear and guns that exist inside of Titanfall 2, not to mention the many Titans and ways in which you can play them. It's just a game that keeps on giving something back to me each and every time I play it. That's the big thing here, right? I'm getting something out of playing Titanfall 2. I'm having fun, and I'm also being rewarded for the time that I spend growing as a player, adapting my skills, and improving again and again and again. And that is really the big factor for me here. It's the same reason that I still love playing Overwatch and that I still love playing Rainbow Six Siege. All three of these games, at their core, provide environments where I consistently can grow as an individual. That's a big, big thing for me. It's kind of why I wonder how people like Sage and Benji are still having fun playing Titanfall 2. I don't doubt that they're having fun. I watch Sage stream often, and even, you know, when he is yelling at people for using rifles, the dude's still obviously having a good time, man. He's still really liking the game. And maybe Benji's the same way. Maybe he's still having a ton of fun. You know, if I was at that skill level and I was spending so much time playing in public environments, I don't know that I would personally be having fun. Those are two people who I would really love to hear answer that question. Why are they still playing Titanfall 2? Where is the fun factor for them? Is it just purely competitive at this point? Do they enjoy just stomping over people and seeing just how hard they can stomp all over people? You know, that's really a question I'd love to hear both of them answer, because at their skill level, they're going to have a very different answer than I would have. And I think that's really interesting, which is, again, the #1 reason I want to hear all of you answer that question down in the comment section below. Let's move on, though, and talk a little bit about Titanfall 2 going forward. There's some things I wanted to some subject matter I wanted to bring to the table for you guys. And this very much has to do with the Titan side of Titanfall 2 and the pilot side of Titanfall 2. Now, I think at this point, Titanfall made its identity by combining the two elements. Obviously, attrition, the sort of go-to Titanfall mode, even here in Titanfall 2. The idea that the game starts off in pilots, you eventually get your Titan, and then there's Titans and pilots, and Titans and Titans, and pilots and pilots, right? That's Titanfall 2 for a lot of people. But the more time I've spent playing this game, and most recently with the introduction of Titan Brawl last week, the more I've started to feel like the game functions much, much better when those two components are completely separated. In most instances, and especially in objective-based modes like Bounty Hunt, CTF, and now Mark for Death, the game tends to take a turn for the worse once Titans get involved. There's a whole lot of factors and elements that come into play that can make the game really one-sided once people start to drop their Titans. And getting up to that point, there's too many variables in how your team earns their Titans before the other team, or if the two teams earn their Titans at the same time. It's not structured enough, in my opinion, to make sure that both teams have the majority of their Titans on the field at the same time. Now, I know a bit of player choice is involved. Obviously, you can call in your Titan when you want to call in your Titan, but that still doesn't change the fact that it's relatively easy for one team to have all of the points they need to get their Titan in the field, while the other team has none of those points. This happens in Mark for Death big time, and you get some really frustrating upsets. You get matches that were down to the wire when they were pilots versus pilots that all of a sudden are completely turned upside down and ruined, like a beautiful, beautiful plant that was growing oh so well, and then someone knocks over its pot in the middle of the street and it gets ran over by a semi-truck. That's really how it feels. It just kind of tears the game apart. It's not consistent enough to make sure that the Titan side is as balanced and as well played out as the pilots versus pilots side of it was. Now, in attrition, maybe it's a little bit less frustrating, but it still definitely happens. Titan Brawl just really got me thinking. It really got me to recognize how great both of these things are when they're alone, how much more pure they are. And I think how much more dialed in the experience becomes when it's just pilots versus pilots and when it's just Titans. The best thing about Titan Brawl last week, the 7+ hours I played of it, was that everyone who was playing it, especially after the first couple days, was really into piloting their Titan. So we had these incredible, down-to-the-wire, just really damn good Titan battles. Some of the best Titan versus Titan combat I've had ever in Titanfall 2 happened last week in Titan Brawl for me. Matches that were won or lost by 1 or 2 points, again and again and again. Crazy clutch moments. Teams working together with incredible team and Titan compositions to make some insane clutch plays. I mean, I'm glowing about it because it was a lot to glow about. It was so much fun. And you know what? That's the reason I keep playing pilots-only modes. That's the reason Nitro CTF with no Titans was so damn fun. It was just about the pilot side of the game. Letting your team work together, letting you function as an individual in an objective-based environment without ever having to worry about what was going to happen once the Titans started to fall. I don't know that we would ever see like a full-on separation of the two. Obviously, attrition's not going anywhere. I don't think we're ever going to see the modification of Bounty Hunt and CTF and in Mark for Death. But I think it's just one more big reason to have Titan Brawl as a permanent mode inside of the Titanfall 2 playlist. It gives us a proper set of modes, one for pilots only with pilots versus pilots, and one for Titans only with Titan Brawl. And I do strongly agree with everyone who is saying Mark for Death would be a better mode without the Titans. As I just mentioned earlier on in the video, as soon as the Titans drop, that mode kind of starts to break apart and it's not nearly as fun as it once was. The whole idea is to hunt a VIP, a high value target, and it just makes more sense if everybody's on foot throughout the entire match. I think that would make Mark for Death a much more enjoyable mode in a public setting, and it would just bring it back to what makes Mark for Death so good, those down to the wire clutch moments. I don't think those can happen as often once the Titans start to fall. So there you guys have it. My thoughts, just something I've been thinking quite a lot about. Titan Brawl really was, for me, it was kind of like it was a bit of a rejuvenation for my enjoyment for Titanfall 2, at least for the Titan side of things. You know, I've been spending all this time working on my pilots stuff, and as much as I love LTS, LTS isn't a really fun mode in a public setting. I think there's too much involved in terms of tactics and coordination. There's not enough opportunities for smaller groups of individuals to turn the tide like there is in Titan Brawl. So that was really a damn big deal for me. And like I said, the fun factor, the down-to-the-wire matches, and just, I think the experience level of everybody who was playing Titan Brawl was at such an all-time high that mode just kicked so much friggin' ass for me. And I really want to see it come back. I think that its existence inside of Titanfall 2 is almost necessary at this point to just make the Titanfall 2 experience better for everyone going forward. Let me know what you guys think, and please, most importantly, I really want to have you guys answer that question. Why are you still playing Titanfall 2? What's your reasoning? Let us know. Get deep about it. I'm definitely going to be reading those comments because it's something that interests me very much. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to play smart, remember to play to challenge yourself, but most importantly, remember to play for fun.